going to go ahead and ask Heather to start the live stream.
You should be good to go.
All right. Well, I'm so happy to extend a warm welcome to all of the CEC members and guests today. And if you haven't already done so, I'd like to ask you to silence your phones or turn off any other devices that you might have on that would disrupt your sound and your participation today. I'd also like to encourage you to turn your video on if you don't have it that way, but especially when you're speaking, if you wouldn't mind to turn on the video so that you can be fully engaged with us. As you know, we don't usually take breaks during our Continuum meetings, but we would definitely welcome you to take a bio break as needed whenever you feel like that's necessary. We are pleased to be live streaming our meeting today on YouTube, as well as recording it to make it available on CPE's webpage. And it looks like that we are right at 1 o'clock, and it is my great pleasure to welcome Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman to the mic for some opening remarks and to kick off this meeting of the Commonwealth Education Continuum. Lieutenant Governor.
I wonder if she's having some audio issues, maybe.
I'm wondering.
President Thompson, would you want to kick us off, and I'll check on Lieutenant Governor and make sure there's no technical issues. You're muted.
I'd be happy to, but in case she comes back on, I won't try to steal any of the Lieutenant Governor's thunder. But we've had what I consider to be a successful year. We were in a position when we started this to have an idea of where we were going to go and how well we were going to get there with the kind of people we put around the table. But I have to tell you that I'm proud that we've gotten to this place where we're at. So first of all, good to see everybody. Welcome back. It's June and it's hot. And one of the things that I can tell you is, and I'm glad to see Representative Tipton on here, is that in this interim time, it is important for us to think about these recommendations that we have and what we need to do to move the agenda forward. Some of you have seen some of the latest data. I mean, we're going to have to really focus heavily on teacher recruitment, no doubt about it. But we're also going to have to focus on this college going. I mean, our numbers, Jessica, is showing about 47%. And we cannot come close to getting to our attainment for the state to build and continue to build and help the economy to thrive without, having a much higher college going rate. And, we also have in so many ways, we're starting in a base. I really appreciate the General Assembly and the Governor's office for really putting forth money for education in this past year, because it helps us to think about how we can concentrate on the big global operational elements of what we're trying to do, but also on the specific pieces that we need to do in order to keep the Commonwealth in the direction we need to. And that's some of these recommendations. So I appreciate you being here today. Today, you will have the opportunity to hear updates of how last year's recommendations are being put to action, but also, as importantly, time to consider how we share the work with others as you represent folks across the state. Amanda, in a few minutes, will be sharing a lot of highlights. And I have to tell you, her and her team has done just such an excellent job in coordinating, working with others to do the things that they need to do. And I'm excited to even learn more myself today. And I hope these conversations will challenge us to continually work to strengthen the educational pipeline for each and every student. We are definitely unapologetic around stating that student success is truly the process by which we think about not just the pipeline or not just building the workforce and the economy, but about building the quality, making sure that our students have the competencies coming out of high school, going into college, whether it's a 2-year certificate or a 4-year degree, to do the things that we need for them to do and represent Kentucky well. And I just saw the Lieutenant Governor jumping on. Lieutenant Governor, I stole none of your thunder. So I'm going to invite you then to officially welcome us. But I did want to say, and I hope it's okay, David, for me to announce that people don't know, David has decided that with his young self, that he's going to move on to retirement land. I will say personally, David, and professionally, what a joy and what a focus that you've had on our CTE and how we connected that piece of our P12 education to our higher education. You've been a joy to work with, and I'm so proud to have had that chance to do so. I'm sure we'll see you floating around in the future somewhere, but I just want to say thank you, my friend. Lieutenant Governor, it's on you.
Well, thank you, President Thompson. It only took you 2 years to not steal my thunder. So I appreciate that. David, I echo President Thompson. We appreciate so much your partnership and your leadership in this endeavor. And you've always been such a wealth of knowledge and a great resource and a great partner. And that's sad to hear, but I also understand because retirement sounds pretty good some days.
Well, thank you. It's been a joy.
Yes. So welcome back, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your schedules to be here. Hopefully you are all indoors because it's really hot outside. But you know, the past couple months have been continue to be a whirlwind, especially because we've had graduations across the state. We have students who are preparing for that next chapter in their lives, which is what we're all here for. And so today we're going to focus on the implementation progress of the recommendations that the CEC has made. And we're also going to take some time to discuss how each of us can effectively communicate the work that we're doing to the audiences that need to hear it, because that does a couple things. First, it increases awareness. And by increasing awareness, we increase access. And again, that's what we're all here to do. And that is the way that we will ultimately be able to leverage change. So you all are representatives of this continuum, and you have the opportunity to share this incredible work that is taking place in our Commonwealth to increase access and opportunity for our students. And so you know, the end goal here is to make sure that our students are best prepared to pursue whatever career goals they may have. And we are so, again, incredibly thankful to have you here with us in general, but certainly today because we value your engagement, we value your perspective, and we are grateful for your partnership because you all are all experts in each of your respective fields, and putting those puzzle pieces together is what helps us to build this continuum from pre-K through post-secondary. So we're also going to provide, this team is going to provide some updates on the newly established work groups and look at their first steps towards engaging stakeholders. We just continue to pull more seats up to that table, which is awesome. And it's what we all want to see, certainly. And with that, Dr. Thompson, I am going to turn it right back over to you, sir.
Well, and since I've done my part, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. And I do want to make you aware of a couple changes. So Dr. Thompson already announced David Horstmann's retirement. We will miss him, and the new associate commissioner will replace him in this role, and we are excited about that. The other piece of people I want to bring to your attention is this is Logan Justice's last meeting. Logan has been a faithful student voice for our K-12, and if we can get an ounce of his talent for the next representative, we will be beyond blessed. And so Logan will be heading to UK in the fall, and if he thinks he's getting away from us that easily, he's not. We will definitely stay in touch. And Dr. Thompson, he's in our territory now, and so we will be definitely reaching out to Logan. And so Logan, I You will hear from him in a little bit. We've asked him to share some student perspective, but I just want to sincerely thank you for being committed. He has served on the work groups. He has been on focus groups with us on the portal and many other things, and has given up lots of time to be a voice for students, which is the most important piece that we need, is to hear from the students in which we serve. So I want to thank you, Logan, for that. And thank you, David, for your service. I also want to bring to your attention that we have John Gregory, who has joined us. He is over adult education and has been a really quick active participant with us, and has really engaged and has a great vision and passion for adult learners. And when we need that voice as well. And so we are so glad that John could join us today. He also has military background, so it just gives us a great perspective on experience and just opportunity for different voices and different perspectives and stakeholders. So as the Lieutenant Governor had mentioned, we are going to talk today about implementation update. If you remember back a couple months ago when we met, we had talked about the Kentucky Advising Academy, and we talked about summer bridge programming. We're going to talk about 3 more items today, but the piece that keeps elevating up to us is what do you want me to communicate? How can I communicate this, and to what audiences? So we really took to heart your push on us, your challenge to us, and it's accurate. And so we're going to spend more time today talking about, are you even aware of these things that are going on? And this is just, again, just a little touch. It's just the tip of the iceberg of what actually is taking place in the state, but we wanted to elevate some things, and we plan to do this because we didn't want those recommendations that you all approved and poured your heart into last year just to sit on paper and sit on the web. What our goal was to take that and help really catalyze change and action. And you're going to see that. And there was work that taking place before, but the stakeholder feedback to really inform the needs of our state, regionally where the needs are, is just very imperative. So we're going to spend some time doing that today. Then we're going to engage in further conversation just about engagement and awareness and what would work best for you. We'll have a follow-up with our new work groups, as Lieutenant Governor mentioned. It just got kicked off last month, so we have some initial information to share, but exciting and amazing attendance and commitment. And then we'll do the wrap up. So I'm going to move on into our speakers for today. And I'm glad to say it's not just me or Robin speaking, but really tapping into our members and our partners in this journey. And as Dr. Thompson and as Lieutenant Governor Coleman mentioned, nobody can deliver a message by themselves and do the spread and scale that's needed in the state. It literally takes all of us and all of our role groups to really elevate the awareness, to increase access and opportunities for students and families. And so I'm really, really pleased and excited to, I'm going to give you the introduction of the 3 things we're going to focus on today in our speakers, but we will have some time in between each one just to give some initial thought, like, did you even know about this? And what I want to tell you today is it's okay if when you fill out the poll and you click, I've never heard of this, it's okay to say that, because that tells us the messaging that we need to work on, what will work best for you to elevate these opportunities that are occurring in our state. So we will hear about FAFSA completion efforts. This was a big push last year in the successful transition to post-secondary. So we're really pleased to have Diana Barber and Kim Dolan from Kia. They're going to share just some brief updates of what they've done to increase FAFSA completion, the cross-state collaboration that they've convened, and just the work that they do. After that, we will hear about the exciting opportunity we have with this new budget for expanded dual credit opportunities through the scholarship, as well as additional funds that were provided by our General Assembly for advanced placement and international baccalaureate exams. And Representative Tipton's going to share that, and then Logan's going to share his perspective on why these opportunities are so important for students and how we elevate those messages for the opportunities and the access. And then we will round out with, and this went obviously last year with our early post-secondary opportunity recommendations that came to light. There was a lot of talk around funding increase, and honestly, that was elevated the most by our students. And I'm just so grateful for the General Assembly funding that, and there being such a focus on opportunities for this. And then we have the educator recruitment and preparation. We have been talking about this. This is a very hot topic in the state and our nation, and a lot of people have asked. So we wanted to elevate two areas. One is one of our universities. So Dean Murphy is going to share what's going on at Western. If you have not seen them on Twitter, you are missing out because they have really just invested in their outreach and their connections with districts. And I'm anxious to hear about their recruitment for teacher candidates, how they're doing this, their approaches. I think we could all learn from, and it's very exciting. And then we're also going to hear from Dr. Meredith Brewer from KDE on a state perspective. Some of the work groups have heard about this work, but the Continuum themselves really have not heard about the efforts taking place at KDE. And as you know, EPSB is also housed at KDE around teacher certification. And so there's a lot of work going around with recruitment and retention, excuse me. And so I think there's a lot to learn today, but I want you to think through the lens of how do we share this message? Who needs to hear this that may not know about it? And what can we do as Continuum members to share this with our role groups that really elevate these messages? And we're going to help facilitate, based on your feedback today, creating some talking points or things that you can share that you're not having to curate yourself, but for us to be able to share those messages, because I think you have influence, every one of you, from the whole pipeline to really say, did you know? And what can we do with this? How can we scale some of this? How can we spread the word? Because we really want to see increase and leverage opportunities for all students. So I'm going to kick us off with Kim. I'm going to turn it to you and Diana and let you all take the mic. And then we will give some initial just reaction to it and think about audiences. So Kim and Diana, thank you guys so much for being willing to share today.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually going to turn it over to Kim. She's our expert. She's the Director of Outreach for Kentucky Higher Education, and so I will let her take it away. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Diana and Amanda. Glad to be here today. So I don't have any slides or anything because I want to try to keep it as brief as I can. I know there's a lot of stuff to cover in today's meeting, but I do have some numbers I wanted to share with everyone in terms of just kind of updating folks on where we stand as a state with FAFSA completion, and then talk a little bit about the work we've done and continue to do to try to bring this awareness to the importance of completing the FAFSA, awareness about the resources students and families have to get help completing the FAFSA, and just kind of things we're looking at moving ahead into the coming school year to support our next round of students that will be college bound. So first of all, I do want to share some numbers with everyone. So we look at the FAFSA completion numbers from a couple of different angles. We look at overall FAFSA completion, which includes all FAFSA filers in the state. So this is a number that we arrive at here at KIA because we receive all of the ICER data for Kentucky, being the state aid agency. And so we look at all FAFSA filers. So this could be our high school seniors. This could be continuing college students who are renewing their FAFSAs. This could be adult learners who are returning to school. It includes everyone. So right now, where we're at as a state is we are about 5.8% down from where we were this same time last year. While we are down from where we were last year, that's a huge improvement over the cycle. Even just earlier this year, after the holidays, when we were looking at the numbers, we were up in, 18, 19% down from where we were a year ago. So we have made strides to improve that deficit, but we are still down. And this follows the enrollment trends, right? So Dr. Thompson was talking about that, and what we're seeing with enrollment in general, and with enrollment being down, it's not a huge surprise that we're seeing FAFSA filers down as well. We also look at FAFSA completions through the lens of just our high school seniors. So how are we doing with that population and helping them complete that step? And so when we look at our high school senior FAFSA completion rate, we're right on par with the national rate, a little bit above. So in Kentucky, we're right at 50% 50.1, I think to be exact, in terms of FAFSA completion for high school seniors. Nationally, it's right around 49%. So we're right on par, with what other states are doing. But the good news is with that senior FAFSA completion rate is we are up over where we were last year. We're up about 3.6% from this same time last year in terms of high school seniors. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we're getting that message to high school seniors. Maybe there was some lagging last year because of the pandemic and maybe some reluctance and fear and those sorts of things. But it looks like we're starting to turn things around in a more positive direction this year. And we've seen that population kind of bounce back a little bit. So when we're looking at overall FAFSA completion and we know we're down there, that tells us that the population that we may still need to work on reaching and getting the message out to is our continuing students, our returning students, so those students who maybe have been out of high school and are looking to get back to post-secondary, and making sure that we're reaching that population as well. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of where things stand with the numbers. I also want to give you all an update on some of the work we've been doing. Some of this was going on already. Some of this is a result of some of the recommendations that came out of the Continuum. So I'll kind of touch on both things. One of the things that did come out of the this group, and that we're glad to have been asked to take the lead on and to convene, is a statewide FAFSA committee. So this is a group that we started convening back in November. We meet quarterly, and these are partners around the state. Some of you in this group have participated, and we have other participants as well, but these are partners who their organization or their role in their organization is focused on at least partly on FAFSA completion. And so we bring these folks together once a quarter to talk about where our numbers are, to talk about new initiatives, strategies that we can try to help support students with FAFSA completion and potentially increase FAFSA completion in Kentucky. We collaborate on opportunities and share events or things that are coming up that we can all work together on. So those are the sorts of things that we discuss in these meetings. One of the recommendations that came out of our last meeting, our spring meeting, and we're working on getting that up and running this summer so we can have it in place for the coming school year, is a recommendation to start a Facebook group for parents. So that was a big focus on the discussion at our last meeting, is how do we get the message out to parents? We know that schools are sharing information with parents. When students get to high school, a lot of times they're being relied upon to share this information with parents. And if they're not getting it from those sources, then where are they getting it? And so we know they're on social media. We know Facebook is a place where a lot of parents are. And so a lot of members of this committee suggested that we start a Facebook group specifically for parents. It would be a joint effort, so it would not be owned by Kia or CPE or any one group. There would be multiple administrators across the partner organizations who could contribute, who could share information. This wouldn't just be about FAFSA, although we could certainly put FAFSA information out there, but it could be about really anything related to transitioning to post-secondary and supporting students through that transition. So we're working on getting that up and running, and we'll certainly share out some updates as we get that going. The other piece of this work that we really try to get the word out on, and certainly welcome your all's feedback as we talk about that communication piece later, is our FAFSA completion initiative. So this is our program where high schools can receive student level FAFSA completion data to help them target their efforts towards the students who most need it. And so Kia has been participating in this program for a number of years. It used to be that we could only share out aggregate FAFSA completion data. And back in 2014, the federal government started allowing states to share this student level data. What we try to do is get the word out to school districts to let them know that they can opt into this program. So it is an opt-in process. Schools just have to complete a one-time agreement, and once they've completed that agreement with Kia, then they have access to these reports. This is for public or private schools, and the schools access the reports the same way they would report their keys data and things like that. So this is a system that the schools are already familiar with logging in to report those sorts of things. They get these reports in the same place, and they can download once a week a report that shows them which of their students have completed a FAFSA and which have an incomplete FAFSA, so that they can, again, target students and hopefully intervene and make sure that these students who still need assistance can get it. So we provide that throughout the school year once the FAFSA cycle starts. So it starts every October 1, and usually within a few weeks of the cycle starting, these schools can start downloading those reports, and it updates weekly. So it's a great tool. We work throughout the year through our outreach programming to make sure schools know about this. So we're advertising it through our partner organizations, through school counselor organizations, their professional conferences, and other avenues to reach school counselors and administrators. We have a keys training every year. We talk about it in our keys training with school counselors. So we are working to get the word out so that schools who aren't already utilizing these reports can, and even some that are signed up to utilize the reports, but maybe don't understand how to best make the use of this tool. We want to make sure that they understand that as well. So certainly open to any suggestions about how to continue to get the word out to schools about that. I will say the majority of schools in Kentucky are signed up to receive these reports. Not all though. So we're always trying to get the word out for those that aren't currently signed up. And then for those that are, again, trying to help them understand how to best utilize the resource. Another program I'll mention really quickly is our FAFSA for the Win Challenge. So this is a program that we at Kia sponsor. We began it last summer and then continued it through this school year for a second round, and we are going to continue it again in the coming school year. And this is essentially an incentive program for high schools to encourage them to have their high school seniors complete the FAFSA. So schools can opt into the challenge, and then we look at FAFSA data throughout the year. We have a dashboard where schools can also track their FAFSA completion rates. It's at kygoes2college.com. And so they can opt in, and then, we're sharing information with them and resources throughout the year to help them work with their students to increase their FAFSA completion rates as much as possible. And at the end of the year, when the challenge ends, there are 8 schools that win. If they win the challenge, they receive $500 to help increase their college going culture at their school. We just announced our winners for this past challenge, and I'll just say them really quickly just because we were excited. We sent a press release and put some stuff on social media. But our winners, so we break it into size categories. So we have small public, medium public, large public, and private schools. Those are our 4 categories. There's 2 winners from each category. 1 winner for highest overall completion rate in their size group, and then 1 for the most improved from the previous year. So our winners this year in the small public school category, Robertson County High School had the highest overall completion rate in their group at 75%. And Russellville High School had the most improved year over year at an increase of 18.5% from the previous year, which was really great. Medium public, we had the Bell County Area Technology Center and Bell County High School, kind of a joint entry there. They had the most improved year over year with an increase of 14.5%. And Franklin County High School had the highest overall completion rate in the medium public at 61.3%. And then our large public, our winners were Frederick Douglass High School out of Lexington. They had the most improved year over year for the large public with an increase of 13.8% from the previous year. Lafayette High School, also out of Lexington, had the highest overall completion rate in the large public category with 80.5%. And then our private school winners were Oneida Baptist Institute, that's out in Eastern Kentucky. They had the most improved year over year with an increase of 30.7 from the previous year. And St. Patrick High School, which is out in Western Kentucky, had the highest overall completion rate for private schools with 100% of their students completing the FAFSA. So we were excited to announce that. We sent some press releases and things like that, and we will continue. So that's another piece we're trying to communicate to schools, is letting them know they can opt into this challenge. Any high school senior who completes the FAFSA can also enter in for a scholarship drawing. So we do $500 scholarships. We award 4 of those. All they have to do is complete the FAFSA. Their school does not have to be participating in the challenge, although we hope that they do. It can be any student, as long as they've completed the FAFSA, can enter for that scholarship. We drew our winners for that as well. And then the last thing I just want to mention is Kia Outreach continues to support FAFSA completion across the state. So we also try to get the word out about that. We have outreach counselors around the state who are available to help students and families. They can schedule events with schools and other organizations. We have our Kentucky college coaches as well, who can support students in FAFSA completion in the schools where they're assigned. We have a great FAFSA completion guide resource that walks students and families through what they need to know about completing the FAFSA. That's something we try to get in front of as many people as we can. We also do training. This is something we're kind of looking ahead on. We do training for school counselors and other college access providers around FAFSA completion, how to best walk students through the process, how to navigate special circumstances, all the kind of nuances that go with completing the FAFSA. And then we're looking ahead to also now trying to skill not only our own staff up, but others with the FAFSA changes that are coming down the pike. So our FAFSA that will come out this October 1st will be the same as we are currently familiar with, but the FAFSA that will be released next October 2023 for the 2024-2025 school year will be completely different than what we are used to. And so this year we're really focusing on making sure we understand how that's going to work, that others understand how that's going to work. And so we will be providing some training around that as we get the opportunity to do that. Social media, texting, those are other ways we try to reach students with this information. But again, as we talk about communication, we welcome any feedback about that. The last thing I'll mention just really quickly, and then I promise I'll turn it back over to Amanda, is Kia has recently become a participant in a project with NCAN, National College Attainment Network. Some of you all may be familiar with that organization. And they have just started the Gates Post-Secondary Pathways Project. So they have selected 15 organizations who provide statewide outreach, and Kia. We were excited to be selected as one of those organizations. And so we will be working with them over the next 3 years. And I think that the opportunity that we have being a participant in this project for our state is that we will have an opportunity to help them develop resources to be used in the K-12 space around post-secondary counseling and post-secondary transition. And they may use some of our resources and help other states, customize those resources for use in other states. But we will also have an opportunity to really learn from this community, find potentially some new resources or some new strategies that may work really well, here in Kentucky. And that will be a project that we'll work with them on over the next 3 years. So I can see, again, as we get deeper into that, having some new resources, some new information, new strategies that we'll learn and that we'll be able to share out with this group as well.
Great.
I know that was a lot in a short time, but there you go.
It's okay. No, it's fine. Thank you, Kim, for sharing. So Robin's going to pull a poll up on the screen. Even though I have worked with Kim and I wear her out because anytime I ask her for things, I'm always emailing and I still write down notes. And so things I didn't even remember that she had told me before. So be honest and answer the poll. And you can see there's from 1 to 5 prior to this snippet of lots of information. Be honest of how aware were you? And to me, there is no harm in that. Be very honest, because, you know, you may have missed it, or they have a lot of things going on, a lot. And so, you know, I think it's really interesting, definitely where we are, because even from the very first Continuum meeting, we had people who said, I didn't even know that existed in our state. I didn't know we'd have that resource. I didn't know we still had money on the table. I've had people tell me, I didn't know that adults could apply for FAFSA. You know, lots of things. I didn't know I had to continue to apply for FAFSA, you know, just assumptions. And so, you know, there's always things to learn. And this is helping us to see kind of where you are. So mostly aware is where people are. And that, I would say, honestly, I'm there too, because if I said I was fully aware, I wouldn't have written down these notes. And so the other thing, while you're answering that and you're able to see it in the chat, who else comes to mind that you feel like, or who comes to mind that you just think, well, we really got to get this message to blank? Who is it? And Kim will probably say we're there, or just even as she said, we have the high school signed up to get their FAFSA data. We have millions that are left on the table every year, you all, millions. And even with their efforts and boots on the ground that they have going into schools all the time, meeting with us, meeting with all these people, there's still people who don't know. Who else would you see? Drop it in the chat. That would be helpful to message, that you think would be like, oh my gosh, have we ever thought about sharing this with? And if she'll probably say yes. Kim will probably say, yeah, we got that. But I think it's really important to think about that, because as we work with each of these groups to kind of craft some messaging or some talking points, we want to be able to provide you with the appropriate audience, or provide somebody with the appropriate audience to share. So please feel free to drop that in the chat. If you're thinking of another role group, you know, I even think sometimes like some of the after school activities or the why. I mean, there's lots of groups. Yes, Robert, the trio. Yes, I know they're great partners. You know, once they're on campus, getting to them and getting them to fill it out, adult learners, to make sure that they know they have some access to some possible relief, some financial relief. Those are all big pieces. And just anything you think of, you can drop in the chat for sure. Kim, thank you for like your, yes, David, employers. Great point. So this is one of the things we even talked about in a different, completely separate conversation about workforce, and encouraging adults to go back to upskill or earn a credential or degree, and the importance of them even making their employees aware of opportunities around FAFSA. I think that is great. Yes, Representative Tipton, church communities, organizations. Yes, lots of connections with that. I love that too. Foster kids, DJJ systems, great, Lou. I think that's huge. Huge.
So one thing, Amanda, if you don't mind, that I'll just say and throw out, you know, I'll drop my contact information in the chat box. So, you know, a lot of the groups that I see mentioned in the chat, you know, like I said, we do reach out to these through our outreach efforts. But if you have specific people where you're like, this person is a champion, or this person could be a champion, or this person should be on your statewide FAFSA committee because they're really invested in this work, please do not hesitate to send me. I'm happy to reach out. So just send me a name and an email or a phone number, and we can definitely get them plugged in. This is work that is definitely a more the merrier kind of deal. So I'm going to drop that there, and please feel free to reach out to me.
No, that's perfect. And Kim, I appreciate that. And even OJ and Dallas's comments about the veteran community, even our high school counselors and those who are advising, which is what we're putting a heavy emphasis, and we're connecting with Kia, obviously, for the Kentucky Advising Academy. That is a single topic we're just going to be talking about and making people comfortable with it, because what we're hearing, to OJ's point, from our high school advisors, a lot of times they'll say, I feel the least comfortable with this, so I talk about it the least, because I don't want to misguide students, right? And so the more you know, right? Like that old commercial, the more you know. And I think having the connections that we need, this is what we want to do to collect this and provide the information you all need to help share those connections. Lieutenant Governor, did you want to hop in?
Yes, I just wanted to pop in real quick with something that many of you may not know, and I did not know until I entered this role. I started to speak at the DJJ graduations for those youth when I became lieutenant governor, but they were all on Zoom because, pandemic. But what I noticed, and I attribute this to being a teacher, is that some kids were wearing, you could tell that some parents had brought some kids some nice clothes, some hadn't, and there were some kids in jumpsuits, and that really bothered me. It really just stuck with me that I'm telling these kids that they're important enough for me to come to their graduation because they matter too, and yet none of them had caps and gowns. And so I talked to DJJ about it. For the first time ever this year, every single DJJ graduate wore a cap and gown. And I know that doesn't seem like a big deal to some folks, but I got to watch these. There was probably 10 or 12 young men who were at the location where I was to speak in person, and they got to switch their tassels. And then they went outside and they asked the folks who were in charge, can you all please take a picture of us throwing our caps? And that's like the first step towards when we say, Lou said these are college goers, and we need to make sure that we're treating them that way. And those little things make a difference for these kids. And so that's just one more step that's going to help them feel like they're actually transitioning, right? Or they're actually moving into the next phase of their life. And so little things like that matter.
Absolutely.
I want to add to that, to what the Lieutenant Governor is saying, because I think she's absolutely spot on. We've got and it's not a group particularly, but it is how we message and what we message. I think maybe there's a narrative where the assumption is that each of these agencies or associations don't necessarily want to push or incentivize people to apply and to fill out the FAFSA and do these other things. It's almost like you get the benefit if you do it. And if you take that first step, then we're here to help you. But what I think the message ought to be is right along the lines of what the Lieutenant Governor is saying. If we recognize that people don't have something, we've got to make it clear we are here to bring you that thing. If you don't know what the FAFSA is, we are here to help you. It's not a reflection on you as an individual. It means that we've got to do a better job as all the folks who purport to care about this kind of thing. So again, it's a slight change up in the message, as opposed to rewarding the people who know that they can get the award, but rather providing that access up front to say this award is for everybody, and then rewarding people after that fact. So it's a slight shift, I think, but it hits exactly what the Lieutenant Governor was just saying.
The item I will add to this, as Kia and all of us do our job in letting people know the value of filling out the FAFSA, it's amazing when I speak around the state of people that haven't heard the message, wherever they may be. The first assumption is that the FAFSA is something that forces them to borrow money. And that, so we have to kill a few myths also, right? Because many don't know. When I did my listening tour, some of you were with me around, we heard that all the time from the audience. But if I fill out the FAFSA, I'm going to get in debt. And so as we somehow reach out to more people, and what we really want to do, and I think Kia does a good job at this, what we really want to do is somehow work with our P12 partners in the schools and our post-secondary partners in creating a much more dynamic communication process, along with what our friends at Kia and other folks are doing, to really get the message out. This is truly about giving you some options to invest in your future, right? And it's not all about borrowing money and so on. So in our Purpose First advising area, in our Student Success Collaborative, we also want to walk and work around, the value of people thinking about how not only to get money to afford college, but the reasons why they need to stay in to earn enough money to pay the debt off, even if they borrow, and how that is not a bad investment if somehow they stay clear on the path of getting that particular certificate or degree. So we do have a long way to go. And the idea of creating a process that all of us are deeply engaged in, and Amanda, I like your question, who else should we get involved in this? I think holistically having a message that I think once again Kia has done well, to be able to spread it to those, whether it's at DJJ or wherever they may be, to understand that message.
Absolutely. And I really love the conversation around this because it is pushing our thinking of outreach and how we reach out to different groups. Dallas had just read the last one on the Challenge Academy, of course. And it's really about, going back to the Lieutenant Governor, about worthiness, that you are worthy of going after this. And there's an opportunity, as Dr. Thompson said, to really open what's out there for you. And I really appreciate the feedback from the different groups. That's going to really push on our thinking about the message, the key message, and these audiences, not to look closed into just what we've always been used to. I really appreciate the challenge and the push on that. Okay, let's keep going. I love this. So I'm going to turn it over to Representative Tipton to give us an update on some new opportunities. And I wonder if you know about this, because this is pretty new. And then Logan, you can jump in just as soon as Representative Tipton is finished. Then we'll do the quick polling again and get your feedback again. So Representative Tipton, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, and good afternoon, everybody. Is everybody hearing me all right? I always want to double check that when we're on these Zoom meetings. But yeah, we just finished the 22 session. This was a budget year. And I'll explain one thing as a preface. You know, a lot of times we have things in statute, but there's one of the first words I learned in Frankfurt was notwithstanding. And when we do a budget for a 2-year period, a lot of existing statutes are not withstood. And in relation to the dual credit scholarship, that's what happened this year. Actually, that's been happening for the last few years. But essentially, prior to this year, students were able to take 10 courses during their high school year, dual credit courses. And with this budget, we expanded that to 12. The way the language reads, a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior can take 2 CTE courses per year. And then juniors and seniors can take 4 general ed courses in their junior and senior year in addition to that. The reason we were able to do this, these are lottery funded scholarships, long for scholarships and grants. So we were able to do this because we had excess lottery funds. So I think it's important to get the message out to our counselors, to our students, that this additional opportunity is available to them. While I'm talking about, I'm going to improvise a little bit. You know, let elected officials, Amanda.
You do whatever you need to.
But on all these lottery-based funds and grants, and I'm speaking particularly to the CAP program, the KTG program, it hasn't been too many years ago that by March, all those funds were exhausted. They were gone. We've seen some improvements. And as of this year, we had enough funds in the lottery that we were able to add in. Not only were all students who you have to fill out a Pell Grant to get the CAP or the KTG, but Kia also increased the award amounts. Now, Kia may know the exact figures, I don't remember, but the CAP and KTG amounts were increased. So it's really going to make college much more affordable for our students. Now, on the IP, on the AP and the I forget the other baccalaureate exam, what we did is a lot of times students take these courses. However, we have a lot of students who take the course who never take the test to get credit for it. They get a 3. I know on the AP they get a 3. They get that credit. So what we did, there's $2.6 million appropriated on a first come, first served basis. We also put $1 million each year in the budget for students who are on free and reduced lunch. Just trying to give them that opportunity to take that exam and get the credit, which is going to reduce their cost of college. So in a nutshell, that's what was in the budget language. I know Dr. Thompson and I have been talking about looking at all of our lottery-based scholarships and grants collectively. and trying to come up with a strategy where we could best utilize and best leverage these funds to get the most impact for our students as they go on to post-secondary. And Logan, you want to share a little bit from your perspective as a student?
Yeah, I did make slides because I will get very off track if I can't go screen by screen. So 1 second. All right.
Logan, before you say anything, can I just say thank you to Representative Tipton? I have seen day after day that those changes are game changers for our low-income students. Just to put it in perspective, that's an 82% increase of CAP funds in the pockets of our low-income students in the state of Kentucky. So thank you very much.
Yes, and I would like to second that. Thank you. The CAP award went from 2,900 to 5,300, and that covers the tuition and fees at all of our four-year institutions, but for a few hundred from U of K. And it covers more than tuition and fees for the KCTCS schools. So thank you very much. And when we announced that at CASPA, we got a standing ovation from the financial aid administrator. So they were very appreciative.
Well, while we're on this bandwagon, I want to thank Representative Tipton too. There's a couple of things that should be pointed out here. One is this is not only making it affordable for entering students, this is keeping more students in college to completion, which is where these need-based aid programs, as many know, it actually plays a huge part in helping us to get where we need to go. So, and as we even look at, and I know Diane, all of us will be working together, look at this, we're hoping to get some Lumina help to really look at all of our aid to see exactly, especially around equity, looking at low income and others, how we can do this. But this past year, it was a game changer. It was not a small amount. It had a big impact. And we're hearing this from all of our post-secondary institutions. So Logan, sorry to slow you down, but since we were going around thanking Representative Tipton, who actually, I will tell you, was one of the brainchildren of this kind of conversation. So Logan, sorry to slow you down.
No, you're good. And I definitely agree. I think the increase in dual credit scholarships is a great opportunity for students, for those that know they want to go to college and for those that also maybe on the fence. And so when I was kind of, I guess, asked to talk today, I was just kind of talked about dual credit in general. And so I was going to talk a little bit about kind of the observations I made through my years, as well as talking to a few other students as well. And I just first want to say that my dual credit experience might be a little different than a lot of other Kentucky students, just because I am from a larger county. I have, over 2,000 students in my school. All my dual credit that I did was from a 4-year institution through Campbellsville and not a KCTCS school, which I don't know if that really makes a difference, but I think through reading a few things, I saw a few differences, but just wanted to throw that out there. So the first thing is that students taking dual credit classes are obviously, more likely to attend a post-secondary education. And so with that, I think there's kind of two sides to that. And it is that one, you have your students that know they want to go to college and they're going to take that to really learn the college class and the curriculum, and they're really planning for the future. And the other side to that kind of statistic, I think, is that really the benefit of the atmosphere that you learn while you're in that class, the ability to test the water. So when I was in my dual credit classes, it was very much, this is a college class, but it's okay to make mistakes. You get that time to really learn and see if, what college is going to be like. And with that, you kind of learn your confidence and your kind of ability to be like, yeah, I think college is right for me. I'm going to kind of pursue that interest. So I think allowing those, I believe is it 2 courses a semester, like free scholarship?
Basically, you've been able to take 10 courses, dual credit, last few years, with the change in the budget language starting in the next fiscal year to be 12 for the next 2 years. We'll see how that goes, and we hope to make that permanent statute or maybe increase that.
Yeah, cool. So I think that definitely, aids in helping that. In addition to talking to other students, I have found that within dual credit, there kind of are two different sides to it. And one is more of like an efficiency model and one is more of like an exploration model. And both, I think, have definitely have their benefits and stuff. And both are really enhanced by having the extra classes for the scholarship. The efficiency model is kind of what I did more and what I guess my school uses dual credit for. And that is, trying to get you the most amount of kind of college classes in high school so it's cheaper in the end. And that is kind of what I think a lot of students use it for. But the other side of that is the exploration model, and that it would be where high schools may not offer a certain class, but they do a dual credit class that students may be interested in. And that is where I think really the like true meaning of education is kind of found, is where kids are learning to love or loving to learn again and finding what they really want to study. And so being able to, do that without having the burden of a cost is definitely a great opportunity for students. I was going to talk a little bit about AP versus dual credit and how, that can benefit students. And I know previously in one of the breakouts, we've talked about kind of AP can be more beneficial for some students versus dual credit can be more beneficial for some. But with that free and reduced lunch paying for the actual test, I think that's another great bonus. In my school, however, we kind of look at dual credit as almost a middle ground between your basic advanced high school class and an AP class. And I think there are, some pros and cons to that. But I think if we can reframe the message around dual credit, I'm not sure if every school does it that way, but having it to be like, well, dual credit isn't necessarily the hardest, most challenging class you can take. So if you think you can go a little harder, then take AP classes. But for me, at least, the dual credit I learned a lot more in my dual credit classes. So reframing that message to be more around, what's going to work best for the students. And I was talking to one student from Louisville, and she said, I love that they're increasing the number of free courses offered to students, especially since dual credit does not necessarily require standardized form of assessment like AP. The way students may be able to show there are skills better in a different ways, such as research projects, essays, and presentations. So not only is it really helping students that, may not want to go through an AP course at the end because they don't do great under testing, it's helping them also be able to kind of learn what they're good at and how that they can use their skills to perform the best. But yeah. And then lastly, or not lastly, but another side of things was, while the scholarship and having dual credit will be very beneficial to students, it's a great first step, I think. And with that being said, I think we definitely have to work on how we prepare students for dual credit and how that we allow them to take those classes or help them when they're signing up. One student I talked to from Butler County said, at the end of next year, I'll be graduating with 5 to 6 dual credit courses under my belt. This will be around 19 credit hours. At my local university, it takes 30 hours to reach sophomore status. A lot of students at my high school take enough credits to achieve that, but because of the lack of true college counseling at my school, there are a lot of time and money spent on these courses that is wasted because they are unnecessary for gen ed or the student's prospective major. A lot of students change their major multiple times before declaring towards the end of their sophomore year, and often after that. Taking gen ed courses during college instead of high school gives students more time to choose a path without wasting money or time. Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for my school's dual credit program and the ability to take online courses outside of those offered at my high school. I feel this is wonderful for students who are truly have a path set or are only taking gen ed. However, I feel that students would benefit more if they were more educated on the details before registering for classes. Most of what I know is from my own research, even just on things my school counselors should know and tell students. My school seems to push dual credit as a way to make the school look better in a way because students are college, career, or transition ready. So this is obviously just one student's perspective from, I believe, Butler County High School. But with that, I think that really shows that while dual credit can be an amazing tool for students, we have to really work around making sure that it's going to be useful for them in the long run, and making sure counselors know how to prepare them for that. And then lastly, my kind of, I guess, call to action. So what House Bill 85, I think, was the bill from Representative Tipton. And that was a great start, allowing, freshmen, sophomore to do that. I think it opens up for them at an early age to kind of see what college is about. At the same time, I do think that we shouldn't have to, or we should not be pushing students so much to kind of grow up and go straight into a college class their freshman year. I know I took a dual credit class my senior year with juniors, and there was definitely kind of a divide in maturity and a divide in the class, just because for seniors, there was that kind of like immediate, we're going to college next year, so we're going to really like pay attention to put our time like where it needs to be. Whereas juniors, they weren't necessarily in that mindset. So making sure that students know what dual credit is, what it can be used for, and taken seriously, I think is a great, or it definitely needs to be done as well. One problem I do see with dual credit is we're kind of giving them the college class without the college counseling, in terms of, you can take all these classes, they might all be going to elective credits. Well, is that really going to be beneficial for me in the long run? And so I don't know, what the solution is there, but yeah. Lastly, the limits, I don't think we should, really be limiting students to kind of, what they can take, what they, like, I guess that kind of goes back into the confidence thing we were talking about. But when we're allowing these students to kind of dip their feet in the water to see what it's all about, I think a lot of times they get that confidence to go on and take those next steps to their post-secondary education. And then lastly, just increasing the dual credit scholarship amount was like a great, thing to do, and definitely will benefit students in the future. So I know that was a lot and I flew through that, but those were kind of my thoughts around dual credit, the good, the stuff we can improve on. But yeah.
Yeah, Logan, I want to jump in and just say, first of all, excellent, really good. And I do want to tell the committee a few things around dual credit. First of all, just to announce that Amanda and her crew is going to be picking this up as a huge item. A lot of things we now know that we didn't know. We finally did some research at our 2-year as well as 4-year institutions on the effects of dual credit after people got in college. And we really saw a huge positive effect on our minoritized communities. They really benefit. But on the other end, we have fewer going into it. So advising matters both in P12 and higher ed. We also have many students in our analysis are taking dual credit, and there way too many are going to elective credit. So we have to create more degree plans, more curricular alignment processes, and all of those items. That will also help our college going rate, in my opinion. And also some of the needed fields that we need to, like teacher education, right? So there's a whole lot more we need to do on our end, both with P12 and higher ed, to make this alignment take place. The recruiting piece to get more people other than just middle class populations involved, but also making sure that we do have, Logan, I appreciate this, there is a difference between when you're a junior and senior, maybe the classes you should take and how we do this. So it's on higher ed and P12 too, to actually get more of our teachers in P12 with that master's plus 18 hours content in order to be SACS accredited to increase those folk that are able to teach at the high school levels that understand all this and still fit under accreditation. So there is so much, in my mind, this is one of the more powerful things that we can do. The other thing I will say is there should be no difference between AP and dual credit. Both are college level courses. If you take an AP biology or if you take a dual credit biology, it should be equally rigorous with the outcomes in the same area. So, we have some work to do, and I'm proud to say that Amanda and her crew will be taking this up. But we have opportunities like we've never had before around the affordability, obviously, without a doubt, it is an efficiency measure. It helps other people get in the workforce faster. We got to make sure if they do that, we have those stackable certificates, David Horstmann, that allows them to get that and then move on to get skilled up, or even going on to a 4-year institution if they need to. So to me, this is one of the biggest opportunities we have of bringing our knowledge together to create a total pipeline process. And I hope we are able to create more pre-majors, if you want to call it that, for lack of a better phrase, coming out of high school, going into our post-secondary institutions, to help them to also see the future. And this is where we can also do stuff around Fafsa and so on. So anyway, I just want to throw that in, Logan, Representative Tipton, great job.
Amanda, can I throw some other things in here that Dr. Thompson has made me think of, and also David made me think of this too. In terms of the groups, I think that might be interested, I guess, to pre-answer maybe the future question that was your old question. I think this is really, really interesting for both policy makers in Frankfurt, but also the school board members and district leaders, because the kind of wacky idea that I've got is exactly what Dr. Thompson was just talking about. I'll use my sister as an example. She knew from like age 7 that she wanted to be a medical doctor. She knew she wanted to do pediatrics or some version of that. And I can see where if she was, I don't know if it is like we said, a pre-major, or if it's early admission or whatever, she went to the University of Louisville. If her junior and senior year, she's taking dual credits in English to get those courses, not out of the way, but to take them early. So when she gets to college, she's able to focus explicitly on being a biology student. That way she doesn't have just an extra English course that maybe she doesn't focus as much on. She gets a B and then it hurts her med school opportunities or something like that. So she's able to focus more explicitly on medicine, or she has just more time freed up in her schedule to take some elective that she really is interested in or really cares about. So think about those kind of students, students who know exactly what they want to do. If it's medicine, if it's finance or accounting, you have to have a certain number of credits to be a CPA anyway. If you're able to move some of those courses out of the way because you did dual credit, I think you could be in a better position to make those 4 years as efficient as possible. I think doing something like an early major would be helpful. The other piece, there's got to be a way, and Dr. Thompson just said that your shop was looking at this, but there's got to be a way to have less of variation between what dual credit is. And again, there are smarter people who can figure out ways to do that, but those are the things that were top of mind that I wanted to blurt out while I had the chance.
No, I'm so glad you did, because that's exactly what we've been talking about. And honestly, just really, really briefly, first of all, Representative Tipton got kicked off, so he's trying to get back online. And so that's why he's not on, but he's trying to come back. To your point, OJ, this is exactly what we talked about with 3 other states recently about their issue, and really the quality of the course, the alignment to where it really should go, whether you know or you don't know, and the meaningful piece. So to Dr. Thompson's point, so it's not all elective and it's not the blacklist, right? It's true intentional thinking, and that takes some change to what we've been doing. And so that's the conversations we've been having and starting to have about what does that mean. So we'll definitely be engaging a lot more people who offer dual credit and their perspective, especially at higher ed. And then what does that mean for access to high school students? But we do want it to be meaningful, and exactly what David had mentioned, to make every credit count. Prior to the pandemic, that roadshow was going and was very meaningful. David, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's something that we found out, that developing those pathways that have linkage, like we did a computer science with Northern Kentucky and KCTCS. So that increases that efficiency of, I'm not just taking a dual credit course just to take one. If I'm going into medicine, there are some basic and fundamental courses, and we just put on a STEM consultant, because what about that really brilliant math student that doesn't understand what do I need to take if I want to be a data scientist? We're going to try to develop some of those pathways for those STEM areas, so those smart kids that wouldn't want to necessarily get involved in a technical center in a pathway of that sort but there are these career type pathways in STEM if they have the right guidance. So we're looking forward to developing some of those, some 9 through 14 and some 9 through 16 with those off and on ramps to let life happen and still be successful.
That's awesome. So I am going to pause just for a second and let Robin put the poll up, because I do want to know, once Representative Tipton had shared and Logan, what was your awareness of the opportunities? And you can do it through just the lens of the change in budget or even Logan's perspective, because I think he laid out a lot of things that sometimes we may not even consider or have thought of with the experiences of some of the students. Interesting. So is everyone able to see that on their screen? Yes. Okay, good. So you can see, so there's quite a bit of awareness around it. So we just have to really tweak it and fix some of the experiences so it's meaningful, and we can touch on the pieces, especially with the opportunities we have financially, where that was a barrier from the very beginning, and that's really been addressed in multiple ways, not just through a credit, but to Jenny's point on the additional funding offered to students, and really giving them access to post-secondary at a substantial opportunity that we have. Jenny, go ahead.
Amanda, I do want to use this as an opportunity to remind everybody, unless I missed something in Representative Tipton's update, we still have a gap that I think between URM students and low-income students taking advantage of dual credit that I do believe we could close if we would look at what funding it would take to add a bonus to keys for Pell eligible students who complete dual credit, which we have right now for AP, but we do not have for dual credit. And I just anecdotally believe that there is a gap that is growing as schools shift to dual credit, a gap that is growing for some of those low income students that previously had that additional money coming because they were taking AP.
Yeah, Jenny, just to let you know, that is something I'm very aware of and having the conversation on. You all know what Advanced Kentucky did around AP and how they did a really good job of really advancing the closing of the gaps with especially minoritized populations because of that extra. That's exactly right. And bottom line, we're not talking about tons of money, if you will, to do this. But it is an area that if we don't actually incentivize or in some way create the opportunity for us to do this more, we're going the other way.
Right.
And we can talk about advising, true enough, on both the college and high school level to push that. But bottom line, we saw really decent impact with that extra incentive that was there in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. That's noted too. So in the chat, if there's any other groups we have not addressed, or if you feel like, just like you shared before, specific areas of messaging or audiences we really need to elevate. And this is something where we have about, I think I looked at it, less than 30% this past year in dual credit participation. I did not look at AP, I just looked at dual credit initially just for a quick snapshot. That's a pretty low percentage for the amount of support we have. And I know there's some limitations, as Dr. Thompson had mentioned, with certified teachers and course offerings vary, as Logan mentioned, across the state. It's a very different experience all throughout the regions. But if there's any other groups that we have not touched on, please put that in the chat, because this is really helping us with the messaging. And yes, Justin, middle school counselors, middle school matters, y'all. Like, it really starts in middle school. And so, yes, noted. I think that's a great suggestion. Any others you can think to put in there? Awareness. This is another piece that's going to go in the Kentucky Advising Academy of just the benefits of dual credit and benefits of necessity really of the advising, what it means, how do you know if it transfers to the institutions. That's something we're going to be focusing on as another single topic, and why it matters. And so definitely Any others you can think of, drop in the chat, but I'm going to transition us and keep us moving. Your conversations are so helpful and really rich. And so I want to continue this. Yes, Corinne, bubble students, hands down, hands down. I'm going to start with actually Corinne Murphy, Dean Murphy from Western, to share about their efforts around teacher recruitment, their teacher candidates into their ed program. This was another work group we had last year in our first year, and recommendations that surfaced. This work group was highly passionate. The Lieutenant Governor co-led this with Dean Murphy, and I think it was really powerful, and it's been a hot topic, as I said earlier, in the state and our nation. And so I just thought it'd be good for you all to hear. Maybe you already know about this. If not, can't wait for the conversation. So Corinne, I'll turn it to you.
Hi, everyone. May I share my screen? Maybe Lauren, Amanda. Awesome. Oh, nope, not yet.
Hang on. Hang on.
It's a game, this Zoom. Oh, there we go. Got it. I won. I landed on the right spot. Okay. So I did put a few slides together. I know, Amanda, time check. Are we okay to still go 10 minutes? You want me to cut this short?
We are good. And as
Okay.
long as the conversation's rich, and I'm already thinking about rearranging the agenda because this is what we want. This is
Okay.
what,
So, you know, obviously everybody read the outcomes of the continuum. Simultaneous to that, we've been working on some things at Western that align with the continuum, and many of them are actually coming to fruition now. So we have some outcome data that we're happy to share with you too, that align with these. And you're like, well, how does that work? If we just made those recommendations, how can you have outcome data already? Some of that aligns with work that we had been prepping to do. And so what we're going to share today are the things that align with the recommendations from the continuum, but also that show the outcomes that we hoped for. And so hopefully that means that also indicative that should others attempt, we'll make some progress in this area of educator preparation. So we're really looking to be the national model for enrollment and teacher preparation. That is the vision. That is the language that we use within our college. It's also the language that we use with all of our partners, whether it's K-12 partners, our cooperative partners, our funding partners, philanthropic partners, and our grant agencies as well. So all of those partners, we're all using that same kind of language to really have a visionary approach to what we're trying to do here. To do that, we're really working on a continued analysis of the student life cycle for educator preparation. So we're talking about access. That is not just access K-12 thinking going into educator preparation, but that's access for adult learners, that's access for military, that's access for all populations of people. Progression within the programs, we're studying all of the barriers that currently exist, or regulations or rules, requirements, however you want to phrase those. We're continually looking at those and how our students are doing within those, and then how are we helping our students when they have completed. And so to put a little bit more finite on that, I guess I could actually make this a slideshow as opposed to you all having to look at me click through slides. What happens when I do this? Can you all see this? Hopefully. I can't see anybody anymore. That didn't work out well.
we can see your slides. It's okay.
Well, it's good. I have completely black screens right now. It's worse than the spinning ball of death. Oh, there's the spinning ball of death. I'll take that. Okay, that's fine. You all can just bear with me on this. So when we look at access, looking at awareness of education as a profession, obviously leaning on Go Teach Kentucky, as well as many other aspects of awareness. We'll go into that here in a second. And then also active recruitment. Who are the populations, identifying who the populations are that we're working to recruit, identifying the communication patterns of those populations, because they differ. Adults they use Facebook, whereas our 14 to 16-year-olds don't use Facebook. They don't even use Instagram anymore. They're on TikTok and some other thing that other people who are, well, far younger than me, keep me in the loop on all the things I should be paying attention to. Then we're looking at, when we look at progression, we're looking at dispositions. Dispositions are some of the biggest things that when we look at both success within the program, but also retention of teachers when they reach their actual teaching position, those are really important parts to ensure that we have within that educator preparation program. So we're spending some time on that. We're also doing some things around praxis and student teaching. When we look at completion, we're also looking at first position considerations and also new teacher support. And then education as a profession, we're looking at stackable credentials and accessible programming. So diving into how are we increasing awareness? And so this is a little small, sorry about that. But what this is the actual communication plan for our teacher prep programs across the student life cycle. So if you can't see it, and Amanda, at some point, I'll try to share these slides.
We'll share them with you.
Got
That'd be perfect.
fully mobile friendly websites. And I can't emphasize that enough. It seems like the simplest thing, but just moving our websites to a social mobile friendly, where it is dynamic, and students, because I equate it now with everyone to a cup of coffee. A student should be able to get the information that they need to get while they're sitting in Starbucks or their coffee house of choice with their phone and their mobile device, and actually be able to use that. And so you have to do, of course, two aspects of accessibility there. One, the mobile accessibility, but also from a diverse learner perspective, enhancing all kinds of opportunities for access to that information. So 13 to 17-year-olds, we are posting weekly storylines that are highlighting our current students and our current graduates in their actual workplace and why they like doing what they do or why they love doing what they're doing. We have paid media campaigns running at all times with those analytics. I almost feel like a for-profit in some ways. When I have these conversations with people like, well, are we getting the response that we got compared to last week? And what do we think is, so it's all those kinds of conversations. We are monitoring web traffic. We are checking out to see, are people interested in, and we can see the difference between our certification programs. We can see the web traffic on elementary education versus special education versus early childhood. And we know we can tie those things to the weekly media and the storylines and those sorts of things. So we're really focused on that. We do things around the application cycle, and then we also do things to make sure that we don't lose students right after they graduate. So if you have chosen to apply to our education programs at Western Kentucky University, actually, we're really proud of this. You're over 90% likely to actually come here and complete your degree program. So we're really working hard to make sure that if we've caught you within our net, you will come here and you will complete your degree program. So I just wanted to share that as one example of the finite level that we get to in the daily information that we're promoting around educator preparation and teacher certification programs. And of course, a lot of that also is tagging off of Go Teach Kentucky, right? So we're retweeting, we're sharing, we're doing all of those things. So, and really promoting our students and our graduates to be ambassadors in that program as well. And our next step with that is actually, we're going to work with the co-op. So we're going to partner with Greg, I hope, in a really strong way around how do we elevate the education profession within school districts from the district perspective, and how can we help them with that, and how can we be a partner regionally with enhancing the footprint of education as a profession. Growing your own program. So this is a big initiative that everybody has different versions of grow your own program. So here's WKU's. We match dollar for dollar every dollar a school district is willing to invest in their future teachers. Doesn't matter whether it's $1,000, it doesn't matter whether it's $5. We will go dollar for dollar. So if you have a school district or you have a sponsor, as in a community partner who wants to give money on behalf of your school district to grow your own, we will match them dollar for dollar. And so that's the base of the programming. We do have at the undergraduate level, we have Educator Rising chapters now in most of our partnering high schools. We worked with them to establish those Educator Rising chapters again with Go Teach Kentucky. But then students who come out of those chapters also are eligible for scholarships should they become a teacher prep major when they get to Western. And then we also have an undergraduate program that specifically targets underrepresented males. So Black and brown gentlemen who are interested in leadership and teaching. And so I wanted to show you this video really quickly. It's super cute. Hopefully. Can everybody see the video? No, that's a problem. Hold, please. I will share a different screen. Now you're seeing every screen that's possible on my, it's fine. Here we go. Okay, so these are partnership with Franklin Simpson, Bowling Green, and Warren County. There's about 20 to 25 young men who spend their Saturdays with us throughout the school year, and they are freshmen to seniors in high school.
The WKU Young Male Leadership, it's a college preparation and recruitment initiative.
The mission is to have more men of color interested in the field of education.
We have far more female teachers than we do male teachers. And then if we look at who struggles more in education, it's men, it's young boys.
Only about 2% of the teachers in the United States are men of color.
The student body in our school system, we notice that it's very diverse. So for those students to have a teacher that looks like them, it's very impactful.
The Young Male Leadership Academy, I get to meet people who look like me, people who think like me, and people who go through the same things I do. And it's a lot of fun meeting new people who I can relate with on a level like that. If you're able to show a young man or a young lady that you also come from a similar place, even if you're not of the same ethnicity, and that this is your story, this is how you got out of it, it perhaps gives them light at the end of the tunnel to say, maybe I can do that too.
I have able to see a change. They're confident. They're able to speak in front of people. They're able to present themselves well. So it is very impactful to see them talking about college, talking about careers after our program. 73% of our students have attended a university. 33% of those have attended WKU.
Most of the referrals come from the principals. Once we get those referrals, we go out and we speak to the boys about the program and about the need for male teachers, especially males of color.
The application process, we would like freshmen, sophomore students in high school. They have the opportunity to come to Saturday sessions.
We'll like sit down and listen to someone else tell their experiences with teaching, how they've gotten from where they were to where they are now.
They also have the opportunity to compete and attend the state and national educators rising conferences.
It fills me with accomplishments and joy and pride of my confidence in my writing. It gave me some positive role models. It gave me exposition to people who are already in the field. It helps you network because you don't go at everything alone. It's good to have that circle around you.
During all of these activities and travel that we do, there's an expense.
By having the community.
So that is a three-way partnership. And I say three-way because it's districts and it's multiple districts, but it's also the university, but we also have some community partners who help us fund that. And so that's a big one that's been going on for probably 15 or more years at this point. This year, we were able to apply for some additional funding from CPE to support both our undergraduate and our graduate programs that support diversity within our educator workforce. And so I'll show you the game changers. I'll talk real quickly here about the graduate version. So graduate version is not YMLA, the Young Male Leadership Academy, is more of a mentoring program. It's a supplemental preparation program that lives alongside the high school experience for freshmen through seniors. At the graduate level, what we're working on, in addition to the dollar for dollar matching, and that goes for anybody that the district wants to sponsor at the graduate level as well, we're actually doing specifically with Warren County and Bowling Green, again, the Game Changers Initiative, which is specifically targeting underrepresented staff within those districts who have shown the potential to be classroom teachers, whether they're coaching or whether they are driving a bus. And so we'll show that one quickly here, if I can. There we go.
This collaboration between WKU, Bowling Green Independent, and Warren County Public Schools is proving to be a real game changer for education.
Driving the school bus, I didn't realize how much I loved kids.
Single mom Karma Berkeley has been driving a Bowling Green City school bus for the past 5 years.
I remember some of the bus drivers that cared about me, so I want to be that for these students as well.
A 2013 graduate of WKU, Berkeley went on to get her master's in exercise science in 2019.
That just came out of just praying for something different and just wanting to do more than just be a bus driver.
Earlier this year, a fellow bus driver told her about an opportunity for city and county school employees called Game Changers.
The Game Changers is a partnership that is really organic to 2020 and the impacts of George Floyd and what has happened as a national movement as a function of that.
There's not a lot of African-American teachers and minority teachers, so to be able to be one and represent not only WKU and myself and my district, but to just the community. So I think I'm up for the challenge.
Karma says she's thankful for her job as a bus driver that helped bring her to this moment.
I don't have to worry about the financials of going to school and getting another master's degree. I can be more influential to them, you know, if I'm teaching, if I'm in a classroom.
She's also showing her 3 sons that hard work pays off.
It's all coming together. I'm thankful for that.
So that program has been growing, and that program is actually a fully funded program. Again, 3 ways. When you split 3 things in 3, it's not so bad. So it's university, school district, and also community support. And so each of these students receives that level of support. There's also a mentoring component of this program where we partner with licensed teachers within the regions or leaders within our community, and they meet with and they work with these students who are in the program, which is a challenge, right? Because these are full-time employees who are also taking classes. And so there's some adjustments that we do on the scheduling side to make sure that we can access both the mentoring components and the curricular components for our students. So that's been a really important part, but very impactful program, and it's growing. We'll probably actually graduate. We just graduated the first folks, and this was fun because we did it at just this past commencement ceremony, and their families were there, and it was a great opportunity for both the districts to celebrate and the university to celebrate. And so that's a really important part. You're going to see a theme here, which is partnerships. Every single thing that we're doing right now, we're doing in partnership with our districts. And so we probably have upwards of 30 partnership agreements with regional schools who are sending their staff to our programs, who are sending their recent undergraduates to our programs, and really working to complete that. So there are some staff members who will join us with their degrees, their undergraduate degrees partially completed. And so we're helping them with a degree completion program. So they'll complete our bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies, and then they'll move on to the master's degree program that leads to licensure. And that's been really successful. If someone is partially through their degree program and can complete the actual degree program, so let's say they're biology and they're coming to us and they only have a few credits left of biology, they'll complete that biology. So it's not all one specific undergraduate program, but we do have that going on. And then our most recent balloon in enrollment really has been the MAT program and the Option 6. So not to go too far into it, but the MAT program has been helpful because the districts who are recommending people to us for that MAT program are actually self-identifying their own areas of workforce need. And so they're able to send someone for early childhood because they know that within the next 5 years, they're going to have a need in the area of early childhood. So it's a conversation with someone that they know already at the district because it's one of their staff members. And then they, get to agree. It's a mutual agreement that the school needs this, the school needs them. They've shown that they can do this. So it's worked really well. The option 6, and this actually just happened yesterday, we're looking at our marketing campaign around option 6. And here's the thing. So the reason option 6 principals, if you talk to them, they'll say, I can't take option 6. I mean, fine, I'll do option 6 if I absolutely have to for a teacher, but they come to me day one and they haven't had any preparation, any conversation around classroom management. And so what we're going to work with our districts on is actually backing up the conversation. I don't want them to show up day one without any preparation either. I want them to show up day one after a summer of preparation. So let's have this conversation in January or February around what are going to be your needs for emergency certification. You can pray, all the way through August 1st that you're going to find this magical teacher who has the physics background that you need. But I'm going to tell you, they're not going to grow on the tree that's next to your district. It's just not going to happen, especially not in our area. We're working with a lot of a lot of rural regional partners. And so let's talk in January, February around what courses can we offer in the summer that we can get your option 6 people in, get your classroom management in there, and make sure that they're coming to you already with 3 or 4 courses under their belt so that by day one, they do have that front loaded information. They do have that front experience, and they've built partnerships and relationships with our faculty so that you can be mentored through that first option 6 year. And so we're really looking at and that's just retooling the marketing campaign because those courses already exist. The program already exists. It's really having conversations with your district partners about rethinking when things occur so that it better matches what the school district needs. And so I'll just end just by showing you all the outcome data really quickly, which is what you're looking at here is 5 years worth of enrollment. And this was up through last fall. And the undergraduate that I have circled here, first time, first year, and sophomore. So when you look at enrollment decline, you actually see enrollment decline happening over time because we live in 4-year life cycles of a student, right? So if you have enrollment decline in, say, 2018, like we did, and everybody else did, sorry, I'm waving at my light, there it is. So if you have enrollment decline in 2018, you're still going to be funneling that enrollment decline through your enrollment cycle through 2022. So when we look at resurgence in enrollment, we actually look to our freshman and sophomore classes to say, how's the size of the freshman and sophomore class doing? And that serves to be the predictor for overall enrollment and attainment. And so what you're seeing here is growth, and this is last year's numbers, growth in our first year freshmen and sophomores. So I was a happy dean of education. There's like 3 of us in the entire United States of America, but I was a really happy dean of education. I'm a happier dean of education this year. So what you're seeing here is, let's see if I can make this a little bigger for all of you. There you go. What you're seeing here is actually enrollment as of today. So enrollment's going to keep happening. We're probably going to expect to see another maybe 100 to 150 students in these numbers pop up here over the next couple of months. But if you look, first-time freshmen for today, 257, whereas in 2018, I was at 207. So that's even, and 2018 was, starting the low, right? So we're growing, and you can see that our sophomores are also bigger than 2018, and our juniors are getting to be bigger than 2018. So the strength in our freshman and sophomore classes are coming out. Now, the other thing that I want to point out to you is our master's degrees. Now, that master's degree number right there includes the MAT programs and the option 6s. and it doesn't actually include, and wait for this, we stack things now in a way that builds the undergrad to the grad and the grad to the next leadership opportunity. Our principal prep program has 80 students in it for this summer that will again start in the fall who haven't registered for this coming fall yet because their registration cycle's not up. So that number is going to go up above 450. And so you're looking at probably one of the happiest deans. And I know Julian set up at UK that his numbers are also going up. So I think there's a lot of really good things happening across the Commonwealth. And so these efforts here that we talked about relate to the continuum recommendations. And so I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to kind of share what we've been doing. I'm happy to talk through all of this. It takes time. It takes really, really strong partnerships and people, and it takes a commitment, right? We're not in this game to make money. We're in this game to actually get teachers through and high quality teachers who can teach eventually dual credit, right? Right, Dr. Thompson, dual credit in the schools. Or even better yet, let's get those dual credit students to campus and have them feel like a college student. So good things happening, and certainly open to questions or things to share.
Corinne, I just want to say, and I know Amanda, we're running a little late, so I'll say it quickly. There's a lot more I want to say that I don't have time. I'm just telling you, Western holistically are doing the innovative things that we've asked our post-secondary institutions to do. And I want to thank Corinne and her group for actually doing it. I don't know if you paid attention to all of her presentation, but they were hitting it from all sides, right? And that's what we want to see. And Corinne, you probably have my level of innovation around Zoom. But other than that, I want to thank you in front of everybody for doing this. I mean, so I'm not surprised Western is increasing their enrollment by the way that you and your team have really gone after this. The other thing I'll just add, and she said this kind of, but I'll say it more explicitly. They're getting people in their cadre and they're not trying to wash them out. They're trying to wash them in. They're trying to weed them in and not weed them out. And that's the kind of attitude that we're going to have is holistically look at how we can get our best candidates of color, low income, everybody to get a quality teacher education and certification in ways that we haven't thought of before, in ways that we tend to rely on the same old methodology we've used in the past and then wring our hands and wonder why. So Corinne, I just want to thank you and the staff and the faculty at Western for like weeding people in and going after all the population groups that are needed.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I will say, when I got here in 2018, I think we were more of gatekeepers, and I don't want to be a gatekeeper. We work a lot to be the office of yes. It's like maybe no right now, but let's talk about what's the plan to get to where you need to be. And so that's why, I'm always asking questions, but it's good stuff. And I think it's not just us. There's a lot of institutions asking these kinds of questions now, moving these sorts of directions. So we went from, gatekeepers of a profession to elevating a profession. And I think that's a significant difference in how we approach this work now.
That's awesome, friend. Thank you so much. And so just so you know, we're going to have Meredith to share briefly about with the statewide approach, which Corinne had already kind of set up nicely, which is great. And I'm glad to hear that connection. And then what we'll do is we're just going to adjust the whole schedule, and I will give you an extremely brief update just on the work groups, so we still get you out on time. And so Meredith, we'll finish out with you today and still get the feedback. If you think of folks that, because as Dr. Thompson said and Corinne said, they're not the only ones doing this work to solicit and really think differently. So as you're hearing Meredith's presentation and thinking about Corinne's, drop in the chat how can we share this message? How can we share these opportunities and engage people? Because what I heard is partnership, partnership, partnership. That it's not one entity doing this. And so Meredith, I'm going to turn it to you to finish us out. for this, and I'm looking forward to things being dropped in the chat as you're thinking through this. So Meredith, thank you for finishing strong today for us.
Happy to be here. So I do want to say Dr. Glass apologize that he wasn't able to join you all. He is reading to children right now as part of our Summer Boost program, which we know is probably the highlight of his week, having that opportunity. So, but I am thrilled to be here to talk about Go Teach KY. Many of you on the call know that this is a passion project for me, and it has been one of the highlights of my professional career to be part of the launch of Go Teach KY. So Robin, or Joette, if you have my slides to share, that would be great. And we will quickly walk through this. One thing that I often say about Go Teach, there's sort of two options. We can tell you that there's a state level teacher recruitment and retention campaign and leave it at that. Or we can say, pull up a chair, get a cold drink, and let me go through all of the different initiatives that we have in place, because it takes a lot of strategic work to address this really multifaceted situation that we have. So, Amanda, do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead and get started. It looks like it keeps popping out of the share screen. So
okay. So
there you go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So Go Teach KY, as I mentioned, did launch in August of 2019, and it is the state's teacher recruitment and retention initiative. And as it is stated on the slide there, the mission of Go Teach is to really ensure that all students have access to, have equitable access to effective educators. And we know that that phrase actually comes from the feds, that we are required to show that we do not have a disproportional set of students who are being taught by inexperienced, ineffective, or out-of-field teachers. And so as part of Go Teach's work, we need to make sure that students have teachers who are experienced so that they are staying in the profession and accruing years of service and really becoming experts in their craft, that we have teachers who are effective, and that they are receiving support from the districts and they are growing as professionals, and that we have teachers who are teaching in their certified areas, that they are qualified to teach, and that we are limiting the number of emergency certifications. And so we kind of thought about sort of this teacher pipeline from pre-service, so in that kind of preparation phase, through that new teacher induction phase, all the way through retention, sort of, I'm in the classroom, I have a few years under my belt, what are some of the supports that I would need? And then, we are optimistic that then you would transition to sort of that grow your own perspective, that you would start investing in recruiting the students that are in your classroom and encouraging them to become teachers, and then you become part of that recruitment process. So in thinking about that, we really developed the different components of Go Teach. And I should say that I am no longer directly part of Go Teach KY, but I was the division director, as I said, when the program started, but it is in outstanding hands with Dr. Vita Stewart in that role now. And so happy to share about initiatives on the next slide. But as I said, for the sake of time, we are going to barely scratch the surface of all the things that Go Teach supports. And I would encourage you to visit our website at goteachky.com, and so you can get more information about the work that is going on. And thanks to Dr. Murphy for sort of highlighting some of that work and the connections that we have with our post-secondary partners. If you sort of think about this Go Teach sort of system, and if we use that pipeline analogy as we think about the work of Go Teach, we want to think about if you just patch a leak, that is not a long-term solution, right? That we really need to think about the health of the full system and how we can make sure that that water is flowing and that there's no heavy leaks. And when we really kind of analyze this teacher shortage that we are facing, we know that not only are we struggling to get people to enter into the profession, but we have many who are considering early exits. And so we do want to be sure that we are addressing that, and that once an individual decides to become a teacher, that they stay and really invest in that long-term career. So under encourage early entry, of course, we want to highlight our teaching and learning pathway, which is a CTE pathway that the Go Teach team actually helps support. It is one of the only CTE pathways that's not actually in David's shop directly. It sort of has sort of a dual seat at KDE. And alongside that, we have our CTSO, which is Educators Rising. And we know that this consideration for early entry, when we get those middle schoolers or those high school students to consider the profession and really begin thinking about what it looks like from a career standpoint, that we have the greatest chance of, the appropriate supports needed and the most successful transition into that career placement. A couple examples we did have with support of Lieutenant Governor Coleman, a chance to give out some grow your own grants to school districts, $50,000 grants. And we encourage those districts to identify a post-secondary partner and to think about using that grant money to establish that pipeline. So you have students in your community. We know that there's a greater chance that they will kind of boomerang back to you. And so how do you commit to them early on, send them off for their training, and then have them come back to the school and sort of establish that connection from the beginning. One thing I do want to highlight from the perspective of diversification, very happy to share that the enrollment in our teaching and learning pathway, that population of students is more diverse than even our current student population. So we have more students of color who are enrolling in the teaching and learning pathway than we even have in the population proportionally of students, and that is fantastic. And we know the research supports that to really try to have, as the video that Corinne shared said, that we want students to have an opportunity to see a teacher that looks like them. And we know how valuable that is, that this early entry is a critical part of that equation. The next sort of element is that elevating the teaching profession. And as I said, August 2019 was a really challenging time for teachers. They certainly felt a bit under attack. There was a lot of scrutiny and critique on teachers. And so part of Go Teach at its origin was really highlighting the amazing work of teachers and really elevating the profession, talking about how, these are critical members of the community and really making sure that the teaching profession was attractive to future teachers. Part of what we've had from the beginning is a really active social media campaign. Hopefully many of you follow us on social media, but if you do not, encourage you to do so. Ellie Gilbert, who actually served in one of the work groups, runs our social media campaign, runs the different platforms, and she has a lot of different tags. We've got Future Teacher Friday, we have teacher recruitment conversations, and that's a space where we can really highlight outstanding teachers that we have in Kentucky. We also have our teacher ambassador program. It was really, really important to me that we have teachers talking to other teachers and to future teachers, because they really could speak from experience. All the people on my team, when we first started, were former teachers, but we were not current teachers. And so we wanted to be sure that we were giving a platform to those who are in the classroom every day to talk about the profession, the joys and challenges. We're always encouraging people to be very honest about the profession, because that's part of the retention conversation. We need to be sure that we are being transparent about some of the challenges, but providing appropriate supports. We also have a podcast. We can't have an initiative these days without a podcast. So we do have a Go Teach KY podcast that you can listen to on our website. And John Pays, who does a wonderful job of hosting that podcast, has interviewed a lot of different teachers, some ambassadors, some education stakeholders, and they're all talking about kind of their experience as teachers. The next sort of facet of the Go Teach program is engaging in actionable supports. So we really wanted to have this perspective of, the short-term reality as well as the long-term solutions. As much as we love the teaching and learning pathway and Ed Rising, that's sort of the long game, right? These are middle schoolers and high schoolers who are hopefully committing to the teaching profession, but it'll be a while before they can become certified. And we knew we needed to provide supports to our schools and districts right now. And so part of Go Teach's sort of package of services, we do have a partnership with the Urban Human Capital Academy and our Principal Partnership Project, our P3 group. And they're providing supports to principals who really serve as the human capital leaders in their schools, and how can they provide supports to their faculty to address some concerns. Some of the strategies appear simple, but make a huge difference. Thinking about class assignments, access to planning periods, and some of the scheduling considerations that it is important for our administrators to be thinking about that might be causing undue strain on the current faculty. We have a new teacher support program that we were able to fund with some of our federal support money. And we really wanted to give that to the districts for them to tailor to their specific needs. We know that KTIP is not currently funded, but new teachers need to be supported. And so we, through Go Teach, have been able to provide some funding so that districts can be thoughtful about induction practices. And the Impact Kentucky survey is also housed out of Go Teach KY, and that is our working conditions survey. And as part of that, that really is supposed to be used at the local level to think about your school campus. What are some of the supports that the teachers are saying they need? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe that's the thing. It's very, there are so many things going on, but with Impact, we do have a lot of professional learning as well. So it's not just supposed to be, oh no, there are some concerns. It's also, what can I do in response to those things? So that comes out of Go Teach as well. Moving on to the next thing, employing strategies to certification. We have a mentoring program that you might not be aware of for pre-service teachers, where we can assign a veteran teacher to them and they get support throughout the pre-service process. And we also have tutoring and reimbursement for licensure exams. We know that can often be a barrier for students to enter into the profession. Praxis can be a complicated and expensive process. And so we have reimbursements available through Go Teach. And the last thing is to entice those current teachers to stay in the profession. We know how important it is to provide opportunities for growth for our teachers. So we do support the National Board program through Go Teach. We have a consultant who is dedicated to that program and can consult with teachers considering becoming nationally board certified. And we also provide opportunities like the ambassador program and this mentorship program for teachers to take on a leadership role. They still remain in the classroom, but they have an opportunity to lead. Again, that is just a few of the examples of Go Teach KY. Very proud to say that whenever someone suggests something, we often say, yep, that we have that here in Go Teach. And that's what's so wonderful about this program, really responsive to the needs. The last slide, just quickly, Amanda. Dr. Glass did have a chance to speak during the interim joint committee this past week, and he posed to the committee members that we act in response to the crisis, that this be an audacious, comprehensive and transformative response to the crisis. And you can see on the screen what we asked the assembly members to consider. So again, follow us on social media if you don't already. It's a fantastic program, and we are always looking for opportunities to partner with other stakeholders.
Awesome, Meredith, and we'll share your slides too. And thank you. It's obviously a lot going on. So we will follow up in the information you've shared today and the information that was shared by our partners, so you can kind of digest it a little bit. And but just to respect our time, we will give you also a written update on the work groups that have kicked off. So Dr. Thompson, will you close us out today on a phenomenal conversation? This has been super helpful.
Absolutely. Meredith, I want to thank you also and what you all are doing over there to actually help us to address this needed problem. So much to cover, and I know there's so many things that we didn't get to, but I'm quite overwhelmed at how much we did get to. And you know, the idea as we move forward to think about where we're going next, and truly, I think a part of what I liked about this is being able to realize that we are doing a lot of good stuff. And so how do we combine this, be aware of where we ultimately need to go? But there's good work that is in process, and there's good work that's going to continue. So we're asking you, though, to think about this and act. You know, you are the solution, obviously. That's what many of you have heard me say over and over again. Our students are counting on us, no doubt. And each one of you are doing the significant things that we need to do. I like when we get out of our silos and somehow find ourselves in a place. Someone said this today, I forgot who it was, maybe Corinne, that when we find ourselves in silos and not communicating or not really coming together to focus on what really is the outcome we all want, then we in fact are separating a lot of good talent, a lot of good brain power. And so I'm asking us to come together and figure out how to use that in manners that we've never thought about using it before. No longer can we afford to not do that. I appreciate Amanda, the Continuum, Lieutenant Governor, Representative Tipton, and all of you who presented, and all of you who are still doing the work where the boots are on the ground. And let me know if there's anything we can do at all at CPE to help this to take place and actually move it farther. Amanda, any last words you want to give us about where we're going and what we need to do next?
We will have our next meeting in September, but you'll hear from us within a week or so of the follow-up to this meeting and the suggestions. We'll be working on some talking points and probably reach out to many of you to ensure that we have the critical message that needs to be elevated. If you have any questions or concerns, we're always available. But many, many thanks for your expertise and engagement today. It's been really good.
Thank you, folks. Be careful.
Thank you.